What's up YouTube, Capital G here, checking out the brand new Prankids archetype that just got revealed. These guys are coming out of Hidden Summoners, and really when I first look at an archetype, something that's like brand new, I try to ask myself a couple of questions like, are these guys going to be competitive or not? That's usually the first thing that I want to know about a new archetype. Sometimes I'll ask myself, okay, well, what is the extra deck mechanic that it's based on? Or is it ritual based? Is it pendulum based, fusion, Xyz, etc., etc.? And then I try to just ask myself about some of the simple combos and how the deck is basically going to operate. But I have to admit, when I first saw the Prankids archetype, all of that went out the window because I was so immediately drawn into by their artwork, man. Their artwork is so absolutely amazing. I think that this is some of the best design from an aesthetic standpoint that Konami has given us probably in like the last 5 years or so. These cards are absolutely gorgeous to look at. It actually reminds me of some of the 90s Saturday morning cartoons I used to watch when I was a kid. I don't think that kids today even know about Saturday morning cartoons, but I digress. These cards look absolutely fantastic. So from what I can tell, the archetype is not only fusion, but it is also link based, and it's really interesting. The main deck monsters all get effects when they're basically used as materials for the link summon or a fusion summon of a prank kid monster. And then their boss monsters, which are the link monsters and the fusions, they all have like these crazy powerful effects that can be activated during either player's turn. I won't spoil those, but they're pretty damn powerful. So let's go ahead and break down this archetype. Prankids Pulse is the first monster. It's a Link 1 Wind Thunder monster. Okay, Konami's been pushing Thunder lately. 0 attack, 2000 defense. Each effect is a hard once per turn. Well, no, excuse me. This card only has one effect, so it's a hard once per turn. It says, if this card is sent to the graveyard as fusion or link material for a Prankids monster, you can send one Prankids card from your deck to the graveyard, except another copy of Pulse. Then special summon one Prankids monster from your hand or deck in defense position, except Prankids Pulse. So you can't get another copy if you use this card for that fusion or link summon. So this is kind of built into all their monsters. Basically, as I said earlier, when they're sent to the graveyard for a fusion or a link summon of a Prankids monster, they all allow you to special summon a monster from your hand or your deck. And being able to special summon from your deck, that's absolutely amazing, because then you're really talking about good tribute fodder. I like this as well. I mean, it's a foolish burial. I'm not sure how good that's going to be, but it does help set up your graveyard for one of the other fusion monsters, which we'll talk about momentarily. The second one is Prankids Ramp, or I guess it could be Prankids Lamp. I'm not exactly sure. It's a level 3 fire pyro monster. 1500 attack and 500 defense, and the effect is a hard once per turn. If this card is sent to the graveyard as fusion or link material for a Prankids monster, you can inflict 500 damage to your opponent, then special summon one Prankids monster from your hand or deck in defense position, except another copy of Lamp. This one is probably the weakest. 500 burn damage is usually not that game breaking, honestly, unless it's something where you're constantly applying it over and over and over again, like in Trick Stars, where you're constantly doing 200, 200, 200, 200. 500 damage doesn't generally, it's generally not that game breaking. The next card is Prankids Drop. This is a level 2 water aqua monster, and the effect is the hard once per turn. If it's sent to the graveyard for a fusion as fusion or link material for a Prankids monster, you can gain 1000 life points, then special summon a Prankids monster from your hand or deck in defense position, but not another copy of Drop. This one is probably the strongest of the 3 cards, not just because gaining 1000 life points can put you back into the position to activate one of your powerful counter traps like Solemn Warning, Solemn Strike. There are cards in the game like Cosmic Cyclone that do require life point payments, but this is also a card that is a level 2 aqua water monster. And I was watching a video about Lithium where he was playing the Prankids and he was making Totally Awesome in the deck, and you guys know how I feel about Totally Awesome. That card is fucking broken, and if that is one of the extra deck monsters that you're gonna be putting on the field, then you can just sign me up right now. To the boss monsters, the first one is Prankids House Battle Butler. This is a card that absolutely looks fantastic. It's probably my favorite card in the archetype so far, and actually it reminds me of a Ghost Trick monster. Doesn't this card look like it could low-key just be like a Ghost Trick monster? Because it kind of just reminds me of the Ghost Tricks. Anyways, it's a level 10 Wind Thunder monster, 3000 attack and 3000 defense, so this guy can absolutely bring the hammer. The materials are all the main deck monsters. It requires Prankids Lamp, Prankids Drop, and Prankids Pulse, so you have to use all 3 of them, and there's really no way of cheating around that, because it continues to say this card cannot cannot be special summoned except by fusion summon, and the second effect is a hard once per turn. So yeah, there's no way of cheating this card on the field. You can't Monster Reborn it or anything like that. However, there is a new fusion trap card coming out in Soul Fusion called, I think, Necro Fusion. Basically, it's Miracle Fusion built into a trap. It lets you banish materials from your graveyard to summon that fusion monster, and that can definitely be at play here in this archetype. Anyways, let's go ahead and look at these two effects. The first effect is crazy in my opinion. It's a very good disruptive effect. It's a quick effect that says you contribute this card, destroy all monsters your opponent controls. When I saw that, I was like, holy shit, they just built Raigeki into a fucking boss monster, and it is a quick effect. That is amazing because you can wait for your opponent to build their link board, then you can basically just say, nope, I'm activating my effect, and boom, just nuke it to death. And I like that because the thing about it is, well, you know what, I should probably wait until I get to the fusion spell, but anyway, second effect is if this card is sent to the graveyard by your opponent, so that would mean battle or by card effect, you can target one monster in your graveyard except the fusion monster, special summon that monster. Okay, that's not terrible. I think most of the time that this card goes to the graveyard, it's probably going to be off that quick play Raigeki effect, because I think that that effect is just too good to kind of pass up, especially from a disruptive standpoint, or maybe just opening the gate so that your other monsters can get through. But I mean, it is kind of nice to have a Monster Reborn built into it. This is Prankids Rorgon. It's like some crazy toon-looking dragon thing. Again, very cute and adorable artwork that looks fantastic. It's a Link 3, or excuse me, it's a Link 4. I wish it was a Link 3. It's a Link 4 Aqua Monster, 3,000 attack, and the link points are top. Wait, these are Firewall link points. Okay, top, left, right, and bottom. All right, so it's basically the cross. It's Firewall Dragon link points, and the materials are 2 or more Prank Kid monsters. So you're only gonna be playing this in this archetype. This card cannot be special summoned except by a link summon. And the second effect is a hard once per turn. The first effect is you contribute this card, destroy all spells and traps your opponent controls. So that's a quick play Harpy's Feather Duster effect, and I'm not going to play it down. It definitely is extremely strong and powerful in certain matchups, like, I don't know, against Paleo or Altergeist, or especially against like a Pendulum deck. You could potentially blow your opponent out the water with that, and I could see that definitely putting in some work in those matchups. However, the real question about this card is just the amount of resources that you have to put into it. I understand that, you know, the fusion monster does require the fusion spell as well, but just putting 4 monsters into a monster that you know you're going to tribute and launch, man, that leaves a bad taste in my mouth, especially when there are so many meta decks that would rather flip over Scapegoat or try to, you know, Goki extra link spam. Like, popping monsters during your opponent's turn right now is just so much better than popping spells and traps, which is why you see cards like Cosmic Cyclone. People don't even main deck that stuff anymore. The second effect is if this card is sent to the graveyard by your opponent, you can target one card in your graveyard except the link monster, add that card to your hand. That's another reason why I like the fusion more than the link. This is essentially a warrior returning alive like effect, which, I mean, that's cool and everything, but would you rather have that, or would you rather have just a straight up Monster Reborn? I'd rather take the Monster Reborn because that gives me an actual body on the field. Next up, we have their fusion spell card called Prankids on the Loose. It's a quick play spell, which is kind of nice. Being able to fusion summon during either player's turn can definitely be one of the powerful things about this deck. Again, especially if you use that Necro Fusion card from Soul Fusion that I talked about before. Quick play spell says during either player's main phase, fusion summon 1 Prankids fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters from your hand or field as fusion material, but for the rest of the turn, you cannot normal or special summon except Prankids monsters. I don't think that restriction is actually that big of a deal. I think my main problem with this card is the fact that I have to use it during the main phase. I really think, and this is not a card that I believe is broken, but I really think that Konami looks back at El Shaddai Fusion, and I don't think that they like the design of that card, because El Shaddai Fusion allowed so many OTKs where you would attack with big monsters, shadow monsters, and then during the battle phase, you use your big monsters to make other big monsters, and you end up, you know, attacking directly with a construct during the battle phase. I think that they're trying to get away from quick play fusion spells that let you get additional attacks. Now, I do think that the fusion monster, when you really look at it, yes, it does require the 3 specific monsters, but if you look at the math of it, it actually makes sense because you're putting 3 monsters in plus a fusion spell, right? That's 4 cards, but you're getting a fusion monster out, and then all 3 of the monsters are going to float and let you special summon a monster from the deck. So you're actually getting 4 cards out of it. So when you actually fusion summon, it does kind of mathematically make sense. When you link summon, if you use 4 different Prankids monsters, the main deck ones, you won't be able to activate all of their effects. You'll actually miss miss out on one of them. So the math doesn't always work out there. Now, the last monster is Prankids Rocket, and this is kind of the generic fusion monster. Not nearly as powerful as the other two boss monsters, but it is one of the cards that really lets you get a lot of monsters on board. Prankids Rocket. It is a fire pyro fusion monster, level 5, 2000 attack, and 0 defense. It requires just 2 Prankids monsters, so anything that we talked about so far can be used to summon it. The second and the first effect are both hard once per turn. Effect number 1, if this card is fusion summoned, you can activate this effect for the rest of the turn, have this card lose 1000 attack, and if you do, this card can attack directly this turn. I mean, that's okay, I guess. I mean, basically, you can attack for 1000 damage unless you find other ways of cranking this guy's attack up for the rest of the turn, which, I mean, that could be possible. Seems like it might be a little difficult. Attack modifying equip spells don't see a lot of play in today's Yu-Gi-Oh! Second effect is you contribute this card, then target 2 non-fusion Prankids monsters with different names in your graveyard. Special summon them. Also, they cannot attack this turn. That can bring back the Link monster. Keep that in mind. And really, and I think that maybe this is the way Konami wants you to summon the Link monster. If you do happen to summon Rocket, right? The 2 monsters, the 2 Prankids that you use to summon it, both of them are going to float. So they're going to put 2 monsters on board, and you're going to have Rocket. If you tribute your Rocket and get 2 monsters back from the graveyard, well, now you have 4 monsters on field, and you can actually summon your Link 4. So I do think that this card is pretty good. I think that it's kind of just a utility card. So let me know what you guys think of the Prankids archetype so far. I actually think that these guys can be a lot of fun. I do wish that the fusion spell could be used during the battle phase. I think that that was probably the biggest misstep of this archetype. I love that the boss monsters have quick effects built into them, a Feather Duster and a Raigeki. That means that this deck isn't going to need very powerful trap cards when the boss monsters are their main forms of disruption. See, why couldn't Konami build Noble Knights like this? They would have been way better if the boss monsters had disruption during your opponent's turn. Maybe Noble Knights wouldn't be so bad. Anyways, whatever you guys think, leave it in the comment section below. Thank you guys for watching. As always, subscribe if you have not already, and turn on that notification bell for daily videos.